Hi, this is Pat McGraw. And, in the next few minutes, going to walk through how I handle a competitive intelligence project for clients, typically as part of the content marketing strategy and planning development. I'm going to present it in a way, though, that you will see exactly what's being done and why and how, and that will help you decide if you can do this work yourself internally, if you've got the resources and the expertise necessary. So let's get started. First of all, let's get started with what a definition of competitive intelligence is, because it kind of varies depending on who you talk to. But it's a systematic program for gathering and analyzing information about your competitors, their activities, and their general business trends to further your own company's goals. Now, a lot of people take the belief that competitive intelligence is that sleuthing, that espionage work that goes on. And there is some digging and there is some research and uncovering things that goes on. But there's another part here that's important and we have to look at, and that's there's a lot of information already in your business with your staff. That's the Monday morning water cooler conversations. It's an informal, gee, did you hear about what so and so's doing? Or the salespeople come back in and go, my client told me that the competition just launched a new product. Those are You're gathering a lot of information there, but it's not being stored anywhere. It's not being analyzed anywhere, and it's not done in a way that helps you identify opportunities moving forward. It tends to be more, oop, we just got surprised. So now what are we going to do? So putting together this formal process, there is that proactive work that needs to be done, that research, that digging, that sleuthing, but there's also formalizing those informal communication channels and data banks that you've got inside the business already. Now, why is CI important? Why is competitive intelligence important? You got that weekly sales meeting, and there is nothing more exciting than walking into that and having your sales team erupt with the competition just dropped the prices, they just launched a new product, they just hired 1,500 new people, whatever the case might be. You hate walking into those kinds of meetings. Competitive intelligence gets you in front of the curve so that you avoid being surprised, you reduce the potential for being surprised, and you increase the potential for finding out things in advance so that you can sit down and properly prepare what you will do or maybe what you won't do, because you realize it's not that big of a thing. It's not going to have that big of an impact, but at least you know it's coming. The other thing is, by putting together a formal process in inviting everybody within your company, all the staff, as well as maybe key vendors, key partners who have witnessed other things in the marketplace and can share and help build the data repository. You want to make this an open and known process so that you can get information from everybody. And that means it's no longer the people in marketing's responsibility for going out and finding everything and being blamed because they can't be everywhere at every moment in time. Now you've got everybody involved and they understand their role, and you create this culture where people are always paying attention and taking note and bringing it back in so you can leverage that data and put it to use. Now there's 4 stages to my process for competitive intelligence, and it starts with the planning. What do we want to know? Why do we want to know it? What do we need to gather? What data do we need to uncover to answer those questions? And what are considered quality, reputable sources for that data? You want to work all this out right in the beginning and avoid that you do all this work collecting, analyzing, reporting, and have someone walk in at the last minute and go, well, why didn't you ask this? Or why did you get your data from that source? I don't trust it. Therefore, I don't buy any of the findings, and I'm not going to pay attention to it. You want everybody to have input and buy-in who's necessary in the beginning and the planning stages, and then that way everything works more efficiently and quickly and affordably as you go forward. You've got the collecting stage where once everything's been agreed upon, go out there and do the legwork and get it. Put it into a central location for storage, and then analyze the data once you've got it and turn that raw information into insight and intelligence that then when you report to everyone, it is, this is what the data is, this is what it tells us, this is what we feel is warranted based on that insight. And you'll see down at the bottom here, I've got test, measure, analyze, modify, and repeat. When those recommendations are made and you start implementing changes, you want to have a process in place where you are testing, measuring, analyzing, and then modifying and creating this culture of constant improvement. You're not going to come out of the gate with new information and new insight, driving new actions that are going to be absolutely perfectly executed and 100% perfect for the environment that you're going into. So look for those opportunities to improve, and it's a really important part of the process as well. Ethics, moral and ethical behavior is very, very, very important to me. Will not break the law, but the guiding principle that I work with is don't do anything that my mom's going to be embarrassed by. So when you do work with me, understand that there are certain limitations that lines I will not cross. And you should really give consideration to that as well, because you don't want to get into a situation where someone is caught doing something that's questionable, and you're there to defend. You want to be able to stand forth and say, this is what we believe in, and this is what we don't believe in, and this is how we're going to do it, and play by the rules of the game. All right, so we're now into that planning session. As I mentioned earlier, what do you want to know and why? Who's responsible for gathering and analyzing? And that may sound like a kind of a weird question, but your senior leadership team is probably going to be doing some of that analyzing, but it's probably not a good use of their time to do the gathering. So have it marked out that person A is responsible for gathering the following information, and when they bring it back in and store it, person B is going to look at it, analyze it, and then drive the recommendations that come off of it. Now, what do you want to know and why? When I'm working with a client, I tend to break it down into these sections. And again, this is a Christmas list, a wish list. This is an ideal situation. I would like to get all of these data points. You may find out, I've constantly find out going out into the marketplace, some information is there and you can find it, and some information isn't where you thought it was and requires a different approach, or isn't there at all, and so you do have some gaps in the data gathering. But what I like to look at is who the organization is and what it's all about, who their target audiences are, what programs, products, and services do they have, what's their pricing strategy, their distribution, and their promotional strategy, and even HR. And I'll get into that in a little bit. This one tends to surprise an awful lot of folks, but it's pretty valuable. When looking at the organization, I find it's critical to gather information about the mission and the vision statement and their historical performance, so you know what they're about, where they're going, where they see success, and how they have actually performed in the near future, or the near history, near past. Then look at the leadership and the organizational structure. Is the executive team experienced? Are they innovative and cutting edge and aggressive growth seekers? Or are they conservative, laid back, we'll wait and see how everybody else does with this new product and maybe we'll come out with something later on? Do they respond to their competition aggressively when, for example, the competition runs a sale and has a 50% off? Do they let them do it, or do they go ahead and drop the price lower? Do they match new product to new product launch as closely as possible? How do they handle those things? Want to understand the culture, cutting edge, laid back, aggressive, passive, whatever the case might be. Key strategies, how they go about pursuing and achieving their objectives and goals. Have they won awards or other recognition? Where they're located, or in a single location, multiple locations. How large are they in terms of revenue and staff? With the target audiences, Want to look at consumer segments, business, government, and nonprofit segments, and their performance with each audience. Where are they most successful? Where are they struggling? Where are they most likely to focus their resources if they get caught in a situation where one's underperforming so badly, but the other one has room for growth? Where might they focus their resources? That's the type of information we want to get here. Products, programs, services, what are they? What are their features, each one, and what are their benefits, each one, for what audiences that they're serving? Patents, trademarks, other things like that. Awards won, and then performance and reputation over the recent history. Do they have fast-growing cash cows? Do they have a lot of programs in the maturity phase? Things of that nature. Pricing, we want to look at the strategies that they're using, payment options, and things of that nature. Promotion, we want to look at budget, staff size and capabilities, who they work with in terms of service providers. What's their media strategy, their messaging and offer strategy, their contact strategy? What's their retention process? And do they have referral and partnership programs? And if so, how do they work? Human resources. Now, get into staff size and experience, number and type of positions. Do they promote from within or hire from outside? How do they compensate? What are their qualifications for positions? And what kind of onboarding, training, and development happens? Now, this is key because if you see a company that's investing in their own employees versus hiring from outside all the time, there's different reactions, different strategies that you might want to take in order to help you hire and acquire and retain your own staff. So next, in planning, what do you want to know and why, and who's responsible for gathering and analyzing the data? We talked about that. So we move right into collecting. Now you got 4 sources right here. You got your internal sources, your external sources, primary and secondary research. Internal, that's going back to everybody in the company and going, what do you have knowledge on, data on regarding our competition? And let's get it together and put it into that centralized database so everybody can benefit from it. External, it's going to your partners, your vendors, your customers to ask, what do you have? Now, part of this could also be done by your own staff in part of the as part of the gathering of the information, the collection. And what you want to look at from the competitor is, look at their blogs, their white papers, their ebooks, videos, slide decks. I had a situation where, for some unknown reason, the chief marketing officer loved to publish their quarterly marketing plans, including budgets and media plans, on their website in a folder that was open to the public. And we could download that because it was free and open and take a look at what was going on and what was planned. We use tools, I use tools like Hootsuite in order to monitor social media. Also get news updates from sources like Feedly and Google Alerts. The primary research we're talking about is going out and maybe doing some surveys and interviews with their customers, with their former employees, and finding out what we can in those instances. Secondary research is just what I described, going out and finding those public pieces of information through the blog posts, through news reports, through social media. Here's some places where you can turn to get information. This is a blend of business and education. SurveyMonkey for the surveys, SpyFu for what the companies are doing online in terms of advertising, SEO, keywords, pay-per-click. Wanted Analytics and Burning Glass are organizations that track employment by companies, so you can get insight into what positions they've been hiring, the qualifications for those positions and things like that, maybe even compensation if it's available. So those are some good sources to use. And don't forget that one up on the top in between Hoover's and Competitrack, which is the Security and Exchange Commission for the publicly traded companies. Work with a company by the name of DWS Associates if you're going to do this work on your own and you're wondering, well, where are we going to store all this information and make sure that it's in a central, secure location, I suggest you talk to DWS Associates about IntelliComp CIS. It's their proprietary product, and it's very, very good. So now we're down into the reporting analysis part. So analysis. Who's going to sit down and look at the data? Who's going to come away with the insights and the intelligence that will then drive the reporting that will go to the right people at the right time across the organization? It's something when I work with clients, I typically will provide the analysis, but there's also internal people that I will work with because they have different levels of expertise and different perspectives that are going to be very, very critical. So part of what I do is the analysis and the reporting, but it is in concert with your own people so that there's that added value there. So that's it. There's a process to take it and formally turn various data channels into competitive insight and action that can help you attract and retain more profitable customers. Now, if you've got any other questions on this, I know there's a lot to drop on you. Feel free to give me a call at 443-692-8338 or check out my website at www.pat-mcgraw.com. And thank you for your time.